Welcome to the Thea Lee podcast. It is February 13th, 2026, and we are on day 44 of reading through the Bible. So we are still building the tabernacle and all of the things that are needed for the inside. So we start out with Bezalel making the ark out of acacia wood. It's 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Of course, overlaid all over with gold, and the gold moldings and the rings that have the acacia poles overlaid with gold through them. And then the ark's cover, the place of atonement, with the two cherubim that are hammered gold and placed on top of it, on top of the two ends of atonement. They're molded, the cherubim, on each end of the atonement, making them look down with their wings spread out. They protect the ark. Then he built the table out of acacia wood, and the same thing, of course, it's overlaid with gold. It is 36 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Then he builds the lampstand. The entire lampstand is made of gold, along with the lamps and the accessories, the trays, the snuffers. All of this is made out of pure gold, and it says that it was made from 75 pounds of pure gold. Then he builds the incense altar out of acacia wood again, 18 inches square, 36 inches high, and it, of course, also has the gold rings and the carrying poles. Then he builds the altar of burnt offering out of acacia wood again, 7.5 feet wide, 7.5 feet long, and 4.5 feet high. So quite a large piece. Overlays this altar with bronze, and then all the altar utensils are bronze. The ash buckets, shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans. And then he makes a bronze grating that is installed halfway down the side of the altar under the ledge. And then there's the rings and the carrying poles for that. Then he builds the wash basin and its bronze stand, and those two are built from bronze mirrors that were donated by the women who served at the entrance of the tabernacle. So I didn't realize that they used to make mirrors out of bronze. Then they built the courtyard, again with these really long curtains, 150 feet long on both sides, and then 75 feet long on the ends. And then the curtain entrance that had the curtains of 22.5 feet long, and these are all, of course, finely woven linen. It says every time that Bezalel made this, Bezalel made that. And then, of course, these curtains are decorated with beautiful embroidery of blue, purple, and scarlet thread. So then it talks about the fact that the Levites compiled figures for Moses. Aaron's son Ithamar was the recorder, and so he records how many supplies were donated for the building and how many supplies they had. So the people brought special offerings of gold totaling 2,193 pounds, and then 7,545 pounds of silver, and 5,310 pounds of bronze. All of that was donated by the people, and that was what was used to build the tabernacle and all of the items needed for it. Then the craftsmen made the beautiful sacred garments of blue, purple, and scarlet cloth, clothing for Aaron to wear while ministering in the holy place, just like God had commanded to Moses. And then Bezalel made the ephod of finely woven linen and embroidered it with gold, blue, purple, and scarlet thread. He made the gold thread by hammering out the sheets of gold and then cutting it into really fine strands. And with great skill and care, he worked it into the fine linen with the blue, purple, and scarlet thread. Then the ephod was 2 pieces, front and back, joined at the shoulders with shoulder pieces. The decorative sash was of the same material, embroidered with gold and blue and purple and scarlet thread. And then they had the 2 onyx stones that were engraved with the names of the tribes of Israel fastened to the shoulder pieces with gold filigree. And then Bezalel made the chest piece with great skill and care. And again, this was finely woven linen, blue, purple, and scarlet thread. It was a single piece of cloth folded to form a pouch 9 inches square, and they mounted the 4 rows of gemstones. The first row was red carnelian, pale green peridot, and emerald. The second row was turquoise, blue lapis lazuli, and white moonstone. The third row was orange jacinth, agate, and purple amethyst. The fourth row was blue-green beryl, onyx, and green jasper, and they were all set in gold filigree, and each stone represented one of the tribes of Israel, and the name of that tribe was engraved on it like a seal. Then they attached that to the ephod. Then Bezalel made the robe that is worn with the ephod from a single piece of blue woven cloth, with the opening for Aaron's head in the middle, and the opening was reinforced with a woven collar so it would not tear. Then they had pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, attached them to the hem, and then intermittently they made bells of pure gold and placed them in between the pomegranates at the base of the robe. And then whenever the priest was ministering before the Lord, they wore this, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then they made tunics for Aaron and his sons of fine linen cloth. The turban and the special head covering were made of fine linen. The undergarments, sashes, were finely woven linen, embroidered with blue, purple, and scarlet thread. And then finally they made that sacred medallion that was attached to the turban that hung on Aaron's forehead that said, "Holy to the Lord." So it really is incredible that Bezalel was filled with the Spirit of God to have the knowledge and ability to do all of these different jobs, and then he was able to teach other craftsmen to help him do it. Truly amazing work that they did in the wilderness with the things that the Egyptians had given them as they left the land. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again tomorrow.